I'm going to go hit record, which
Okay.
I just did. And it's been a crazy week, to say the very least, or
It's
crazy
been a crazy
week.
week in regular land and fire district land.
Yep, and Disneyland maybe too in there, but that's me getting off my high horse right now, because it's not about me, it's about the city and how you wish to participate in it. So, sir, let's start off with tell us who you are, what you're running for.
Sure. My name is Benjamin Kellogg. I am running for East Contra Costa Fire Protection District Board of Directors. I want to be a board of director because I really think I should help out the. Wow, can we start over?
Don't worry about it. Hey, this is real simple. I'm not Walter and Cronkite, man. I'm just a guy trying to figure out who to vote for. And
All right, let's
the 8 or 9 people that watch this with us, they're just trying to figure out who to vote for. So,
you got a lot more of a following than 8 or 9 people.
Well,
starting to turn into the Walter Cronkite.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes reading some comments, I feel like I'm more like Maury Povich, but that's not my intent. My intent, like I said, I just want to find out why I should vote for you. So please feel free. Do-overs are fine.
All right. My name is Benjamin Kellogg, and I am running for the fire board for East Contra Costa County. My journey kind of started a year ago with the whole Measure L issue from last year.
Yes.
I went to my first fire board meeting, and they were discussing whether or not they wanted to back Measure L. And it lasted for quite a long time, the meeting. And at the very end, the board of directors were each going through their points and what their opinions were. And it got down to a certain director. And I remember this succinctly. And this is actually the reason why I decided to run, was because I can literally remember him reaching over his desk, grabbing a piece of paper, and starting to read these prepared remarks. And it literally sounded like the remarks came from a developer's brain, which I will leave.
That's okay. People will draw their own conclusions.
Exactly.
Not a problem.
It was completely tone deaf. It wasn't what he had been listening to the whole night. The people of the district had really come out to say the fire board should have nothing to do with endorsing Measure L whatsoever, for so many reasons.
Right.
So that's kind of when I got into saying, you know what, maybe I should run for director. Maybe this person shouldn't have a seat at the table anymore, because his constituents spoke for so long to have that come out of his mouth. So that's why I'm here. That's why I want to run for the director seat. I think I can bring a fresh new perspective. I grew up in a firefighting family. My father was a captain for 32 and a half years. So I saw the dedication and the long hours and what it took professionally and physically. And so I think I can bring some new ideas, turn over some new rocks, and kick over some ones that have already been looked at, and some people, might have said, yeah, this probably isn't going to work. I think the conversation over the last 8 to 10 months has changed dramatically due to community engagement on the subject. Over the last few years, it's kind of been, there's only one solution, and it has to be a tax increase. And I think we've kind of blown that out of the water. And I kind of want to thank the city of Oakley, because the city of Oakley has kind of brought that to the head. Everyone was like, oh, there's nothing else we can do. We have to have a tax. Everyone is paying their fair share. Well, we found out this week that really wasn't the case with Oakley. And then Brentwood actually announced that they were going to bring to the city council next meeting what they've been talking about at the fire ad hoc committee, the fire district. So that should be an interesting readout also.
Right.
So to say that there's nothing else we could have done, I think the people who have been saying, what? No, this isn't the end all be all. I think we kind of are happy this week because I believe we have kind of been vindicated a little bit in that sense. But there's a lot of work to do, and I plan on, if I'm elected, to stepping up to the table and listening to everyone and helping solving this problem with the rest of the directors on the board.
Okay. And that is, well, one of the reasons I even started this. It seems like Measure L started all kinds of stuff, good, bad, or indifferent. Now, you had mentioned, bringing fresh ideas, and I'm paraphrasing now. What is an example of a fresh idea in your mind?
I think we have to look at everything. I think we have to, it may not necessarily be a fresh idea, but it may be kicking over existing rocks in the past. I've only been a resident of Brentwood since 2017. I moved up here from Livermore, lived in Livermore for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Great fire protection. When I moved up here, I kind of knew what I was getting into as far as fire protection. But then I started looking at my tax bill every year, and I literally looked at it and it said CFD, which I knew was Community Facilities District.
Okay.
And I'm in number 5. And I'm like, oh, great, I'm paying into fire service. Well, come to find out, I'm actually not. That CFD, even though has the wording that CFD public safety money can be used for anything regarding fire, fire personnel, fire engines, building of fire stations, the city of Brentwood decided to give it all that public safety money to PD back in 2005.
Okay.
So I brought this fact up, and some people liked the idea. Other people weren't too particularly happy with the whole redistribution. I want superior fire protection. I also want superior police department. So I don't want to take away from the police department whatsoever.
Right.
However, I would like every municipality to get their house in order. You like to use the house analogy a lot. I'll use my house analogy.
Good. Wow.
So that was kind of the rocks. Consolidation is another idea that I'd like to see. I believe it's the end all be all as far as consolidating with Confire. Just holding municipalities accountable. I mean, Brentwood passed their impact fees a few months ago, finally.
Mm-hmm.
We know what Oakley's doing. And the county is, I believe they are going to be approving the new fire impact fees in that their November meeting. So things are coming together. I think we just need to continue to apply pressure where pressure is needed.
Right.
And I believe it's going to be a long process, but I believe the process is going to eventually be fruitful.
Right. And to be fair, if I sound like, or if you feel like I'm painting you into a corner, that truly is not the case.
No, not at all.
This is new ground for you. You come from a family, your dad was a firefighter, but it's two radically different things.
It is. And I believe that eventually the last thing we're going to need to do on this journey of ours, because this is going to be a multi-prong solution that's going to fix all this. Okay. One will be a tax increase. One will be some type of assessment. However, using the house analogy, I think everyone needs to come to the kitchen table, municipality-wise, and say, hey, this is what we can give to the district. This is what we owe the district. And once they kind of figure out everything and figure out a final number of how much money the district actually needs, right now the number is between 12 and 16 million. Mm-hmm. If we can get that number down, that means the benefit assessment is going to be less. Instead of paying $150 per parcel, once everything is figured out and fixed, the number may be $100. So at least there's a savings there. Right. In these times that, I mean, we're in COVID right now. Right. People are losing their jobs. People don't have work. They're on unemployment. The last thing we should be talking about right now are more taxes. They're needed. However, I think we need to give people a break at this point in time. The fire department has real issues, like we all know. Right. But I think we need to flip over every rock and take the money that's underneath that rock, if there is any, mm-hmm. and before we come to the voters and ask for more money.
No, and that's fair. I don't think anyone's going to raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to pay more taxes. Yeah. Then there's also the reality of if you only have $1, yep. You can wish to have $100, or you can make up ways to make that dollar work. Mm-hmm. But if you want to buy, costs $2. There's no getting around. You need more money. Now, how you get that, that if I had that answer, I'd be running for something, but I don't. And with respect to what you had said, and that's why when I said an example of change, I'm not trying to paint you in a corner, because you don't know what you can change. So yeah. Until you actually get in the chair. Correct. And I've said this before, when you win, because I gotta be right with one of you. So yeah. So anyway, thank you for talking about my house analogy, because that to me is an example of thinking out of the box. And mm-hmm. for those who don't know, I'll give the quick nickel, and then you can tell me your thoughts on it. Basically, I'm asking for an executive action for a complete moratorium. Everybody stop, okay, yep. until the fire thing is resolved. Now, the house analogy. Mm-hmm. You and I, we are the parents of this house called Brentwood. Yep. In this house, we have kids. We have the civic leader kids, and we have the developer kids. Most of the developer kids are neighbor kids that come over. Mm-hmm. And the house is a mess. It's getting messier and messier. And we as parents keep saying, Johnny, Susie, you're going to have to clean up before you can play with these anymore, play with these toys or whatever, toys being money. And they're giving up excuses. Oh, it's not my fault. Oh, it's not my house, whatever the case may be. So as a parent, I make it simple. You know what? I'm taking away all the toys until you kids clean up this house. Period. Dot. And I had a conversation with someone about, well, that for new developers and new developments, they have to pull their weight. But my whole thing was, but if you got a kid who's been a neighbor kid who's been sleeping on the couch for 15 years, that shouldn't give him a pass to not clean the house. All the new kids coming in, I am so sorry. I have no idea what that is. I apologize, and I won't cut this out. So yeah, because I don't want people thinking I'm editing. But back to my train of thought. As a parent, there comes a time when you just have to lay down the law. If you don't like developer kids, if you don't like my rule of clean up this house before you can play, then go next door, go back home, whatever. You kids, we're putting food in your plate. We're feeding you. You are our kids. We want you to clean up this house. Now, we've tried to be nice. Forget about it. No one plays with any more toys, period. So that's what I mean about extreme. What are your thoughts?
So I
Not as
used
a
to
runner.
have,
I'm talking to you as a parent. You as a parent, what are your thoughts?
me as a parent, that makes complete sense. And I use that every day with my 3 girls. When it comes to the fire department, I used to have that opinion until I looked it up a little bit more. So unfortunately, if you cut off all of the developments coming in, you cut off the impact fees that come in to pay for things like new fire stations. So the district is passing their new CFDs and new impact fees. Those are going to pay for, by 2040, I believe, they will have 9 stations, or should. So those will be paying for stations 7, 8, and 9. So essentially, if you cut off that money, those stations will not be built. So my analogy to your house one is, I'm going to take away all the toys in the house, and I'm going to throw all the kids out of the house. But on the way out, the stupid kids are going to take my car keys, and they're going to hide my car keys, and they're not going to give them back to me. And so I'm literally doing something that I thought was going to fix the problem, but now it's made my life more complicated, because now I don't have a car to drive because I have no car keys.
Okay, no, and that makes sense. The only, staying with the analogy, if you are afraid to keep your house in order because some kid may steal your car keys, then maybe you get what you deserve. You know, again, with the new developer kids coming in, they know what they have to do to play with toys. They come in with the mop and the broom, and they're okay, Mr. Dorman, you know, here, I'll do this, I'll do that, you know, and this one, the new ones. But the old 15-year-old ones that have been sleeping on the couch, eating off our table, get a pass. And the thing is that with existing laws or rules, of course they can get a pass. And if I were a 15-year-old lazy kid, well, why would I want to get up and work if I've never had to before? Whereas if everybody stops playing with toys, of course, you're going to have people that are going to try and steal your keys. You may even have kids that will say, well, hey, I'm going to go play over at Oakley's house. If
Mhm.
Brentwood house won't let me play, I'll go to Oakley's house.
Yep.
Well, this is where the fire district is unique
Mhm.
because the fire district covers not just Brentwood, but Oakley and Knightson and so on. So even if those old developer kids go over to Oakley to play,
Mhm.
well, they're still going to have to pay to get in the house. That money
Yes,
goes to the fire district.
it
So
does.
whether it is, I'm mixing metaphors now, but even if they go to another city, now I'm talking about
Mhm.
just straight developers. If they go to
Yep.
another city, say Oakley,
Yep.
and they're going to pay all the fees and everything there because we don't want to play nice with them.
Mhm.
Well, the fire district's still getting the money. It may not be getting as much money as if they played by our rules, but they're still getting some money. And so the argument of, and I say it as that, the argument of we just do a full shutdown, I
Mhm.
don't see how it hurts Brentwood because as of right now, these developers aren't paying anyway. And so we're not getting those fees anyway. If they decide to pull up stakes, spend millions of dollars to go to Oakley or to go to Antioch would be out of district, but if they decide to go somewhere else, they're going to lose millions of dollars. And that's the whole thing too. When someone says, "Oh, well, they'll pull up stakes and leave," it ain't that easy.
No, it's not. And you bring up Oakley, um, just as a developer. Um, Obviously, Oakley is more business friendly. If you put a moratorium on Brentwood, people are going to go to Oakley because we know this week that Oakley has been waiving impact fees or discounting impact fees. So if you put a, if the cool kids try to go to Oakley, they may not pay anything. And you have the kids that are doing the right thing who want to build in Brentwood, they're not going to be able to. And the district is not going to get the amount of funds that they would get if they went to Oakley. Because you would be getting more money if you build in Brentwood because
But
Brentwood has updated their
and
impact fees.
you're right if all the kids played fair. But
Mhm.
if we're looking at today, right now,
Yep.
developers right now today, there are some that have gotten sweetheart deals. And
Absolutely.
there are some that are trying to do the right thing. And the thing
Mhm.
is, the irony of this is that the newer developers trying to do the right thing, small business owner, minority owned business, woman owned business. So the three entities that we really should be focusing in on
Yep.
to help us grow and grow correctly are the ones that are being sacrificed the most and putting up sacrifices the most. Um,
So I
so
think
it's Mhm.
sorry.
No, no, no.
Um, so I think when you use the analogy, the new developers and the old developers, they're the same developers. They're just playing on two different fields. You've got a developer who may have land that's 20 years old and may now be coming around to wanting to build on it. They're going to get grandfathered in because they most likely already started the process long ago. So we're still talking about the same people. They're just on different parts of the field at this point in time.
Okay. Well, I don't want to beat that dead horse. Again, I'm not trying to paint you in a corner, but when you talked about an example
Yeah.
of some examples of change, and again, just um,
Yeah.
the only reason.
Does it make sense for the city of Brentwood to do it just on a strictly city level
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with fire protection? Yeah, I could definitely see that. It would, they have numerous other issues going on with the city of Brentwood other than fire protection too. We've got bulging schools, we have roadways, infrastructure, everything like that. If they put a moratorium on building, that would help with not having more kids trying to go to schools that have no room. So just on a strictly municipality level at the city of Brentwood,
Yeah.
it sounds like an idea, but my personal opinion, not for fire protection.
Okay. No, fair enough. And that's, like I said, when you brought up, I appreciate the fact that you knew exactly what I was talking about with the house analogy. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about how our system is set up now. Now, I understand the county is the entity that broke us up, and that's
Yes.
why we have what we have today. That is just the way it is. And that the current calculus on how many firehouses we need per population
Mhm.
is sorely lacking.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the ideas I pitched, because Tuesday rather, Brentwood was talking about selling properties.
Mhm.
And so my idea was, okay, well, I'm not a big fan of you selling property because that just means someone's going to build something on
Okay.
it, and not farmland. But if
Mhm.
you're going to sell it anyway, then why not take that money and instead of putting it in the general fund or wherever, just dedicate it strictly to building firehouses, or take some of that land and maybe even build a firehouse there. Okay. This is a preface now to the discussion I had, which was, it's not the building, it's the maintenance, it's the firefighters, and
Yep.
and cops and firefighters don't get paid enough, and teachers. So with that said, I started thinking about, well, what about if we had the structure and we had volunteer firefighters? I mean, that was a novel idea back in the day. As a matter of fact, old Brentwood, that was pretty much the deal. It was, Johnny had his fire hat, got the Dalmatian, went out. So, what are your thoughts on that? Having volunteer fire department. Now, I don't know if it makes sense, but I don't know if there's any legal aspects of it. But what are your thoughts?
I'm not too keen on volunteer firefighting here. It's great for small towns up north. You go up the 505, you go up to off the 5. You've got Arbuckle and just that corridor up in Reading, Shasta. You've got great volunteer stations and firefighters. However, everything's not free. Not only does it cost money to run a volunteer station, you have to pay for things like insurance for them, all their gear. They're going to spend just enough time with us to pad their resume, to get their certifications, to go to paramedic school, and they're going to hop over to Confire or Alameda County or Berkeley or San Francisco. Not only the biggest reason why it's not a good fit here, it would explode response times. I've suggested for the people who think volunteer would work here is the district should put on a show and tell. They stage a few people around town, around the district, Oakley, Brentwood, wherever, Marsh Creek, doesn't matter where. Run a call simulation from tone out to driving to the station from their house and then responding. I guarantee you those response times will be double or triple what they are now. Because it's right now you have firefighters at the stations,
Right.
and we have 11-minute response times within Brentwood. Now you're going to add time when they're at their house, or they may not even be in town. So you're going to add that travel time from their house to the station, which could be 5, 10, another 15 minutes. So you're going to go from 11-minute response times with a paid department to 26 minutes within Brentwood. That's a terrible idea. As far
No,
as
I understand. I was not saying instead of, it was
Oh
more.
no,
of
and I wasn't
a-
talking to you in general, but I have this is a big topic. I hear it all the time. People ask me, "What do you think of volunteers?" And I'm like, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we had volunteers. It worked because we weren't a 75,000 person city. You know, we weren't. It just worked back then.
Right.
Now it just wouldn't. I mean, someone goes into cardiac arrest, you basically are brain dead within 5 minutes of losing oxygen. So it wouldn't work at all.
Okay. No, and like I said, I just threw it out there when I was speaking to the gentleman about the one-time cost, the building of the place, and then the ongoing cost. And
Yeah.
so that's when the idea, well, why not? And you make very good points as to why not.
Yeah. As far as the one-time building or the one-time selling a property, if somehow we had an agreement with Brentwood, say, hey, you sell surplus property and you decide you want to give it to the fire district, we could put those funds towards building stations, buying new apparatus. We wouldn't be able to hire personnel with it because it's a one-time type of thing. It's like, you know, how they used to do it. You know, let's get a grant. The grant money runs out in 3 years. We open up a station using that money, and then the money runs out. The fire station closes, and we're back to square one again.
Right, right. No, and again, it's what you have responded does make sense. The only point I would like to, because again, you had said some very similar things. And when it came to the monies lasting, let's say 3 years, that if we had an established place, if we had firefighters, and even though it may have been, you know, maybe it's written down, it's going to be a 3-year contract with possible extension. I can't imagine our neighbors sitting there saying after 2.5 years, let's go ahead and let it die. You know, I don't want to pay any more money. As opposed to, we've demonstrated for 2.5 years that we are an essential service. How about you kick in a couple of pennies on the tax side? And that's the only reason I bring it up like that. And one last point about the people coming in to get trained and then move on.
Yep.
Dude, that's any job.
It is.
Honestly, that is any job. You know, how many times do police do that? Teachers, engineers, you know, so that if that was a hard stop reason, I don't know if that one would really be a good reason, in my opinion.
I think when you talk about other types of jobs, like non-public safety jobs, where that's a common practice. I'm in IT. Happens all the time. When it comes to public safety, we've tried this in the past. It hasn't worked. Um, I agree with the district's position and the chief's position now that we can't go and continue this one-time funding of personnel and essential services. I don't feel comfortable playing Russian roulette anymore with fire protection. And it's not only fire protection, it's the head-on collision on Byron Highway or Vasco, where it's a 20 to 25-minute response, the cardiac arrest, the stroke victim. I don't want to see any more fire stations closed down. We're solvent for the next 10 years. That's great. But I don't want to get back into the using of one-time fees, grants, things like that to fund fire protection anymore. We have enough to fund right now with those types of fees without having to put them towards personnel. Things like replacing our water tender fleet, our wildland fire engines, our existing stations that need routine maintenance. We have a fireboat that no one is trained on because we can't respond to the normal stuff. So we are allowing Con Fire to use it. A paramedic program that everyone, it's standard everywhere just about now. We're the only, I believe, department within Contra Costa County that don't have paramedics, which is why I believe Con Fire consolidation is so important. There are so many specialty things within the fire service now that are standard that we could be taking advantage of. Hazardous materials, swift water rescue. We are on the Delta and we have no fireboat. I hear calls all the time of vessels in distress on the Delta. How long will it take for an engine to go from Oakley, or if Oakley is unavailable, for Station 52 on the west side of town to get all the way out to the Delta? You might as well just have that be a recovery operation at that point in time if you have people in the water. So, like I said, I'm not willing to play Russian roulette anymore with it.
Fair enough.
I think that's a hard stop for me.
Okay, no, fair enough. Now you mentioned consolidating a couple of times, and instead of me trying to put words in your mouth, why don't you tell me what you mean by consolidating?
Sure. So I've used the analogy in the past that the kind of process that we're going through right now as a fire protection district is kind of a merger acquisition process in the business world, where you have, give you an example, Intel. Let's have Con Fire be Intel at this point in time.
Okay.
And we're a startup in the garage that has promise. So Intel is interested in us to take us over. We're going to do everything we can to get our the money side of and the sales side of our company in order so that Intel can take us over. So
wait, I'm sorry, you said cannot take us over? Is that?
No, sorry, misspoke. So that they can take us over.
Can, okay.
So basically, we have a 3-station deficit. So LAFCO has stated that no department can consolidate if it adversely affects one of the entities. So if Con Fire were to take us over, it would adversely affect Con Fire because we're down 3 stations. We have fiscal issues as far as budgets and things like that. So until we get up to a point where we no longer have issues, it's not feasible for Con Fire to take us over. So that's why I said there is a multi-prong approach. You have to find new funding sources. You have to get, the Oakley deal squared away. If we're going to have a tax assessment, that'll fix most of the issues. After all that's done, the last piece of the pie is having Con Fire take us over. Once Con Fire takes us over, we can have things like integrating a paramedic program, heavy rescue on auto extrication calls, hazardous materials, better training. Since our guys are always out on calls, the chief has said, well, training has really kind of deteriorated. There's only so many hours in the day to do stuff. And especially during fire season, they're always out on calls. So consolidating with Con Fire would, like we've done in the past, we had a whole bunch of volunteer departments consolidate into what we are now. And it's a standard practice throughout California to consolidate.
Okay.
So that would just bring a better, it would bring better fire protection to East County if we consolidated as a whole into the county system.
Okay. Well, now when you become part of the fire district, you had mentioned there are a lot of things we need to do to become attractive before we're acquired.
Yes.
How would you then help pretty us up so that we are attractive?
I have to give it to the district. I will give kudos when kudos is deserved. They are on the path of what they need to be doing. Impact fees are getting updated. They're creating their own CFD. That will take care of a lot of budgetary concerns. Taking care of whatever money Oakley owes us, and then building on that into the future.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh God, I heard the feedback. When you say us, you're referring to the fire district, not Brentwood.
To the fire district as a whole, because the
think
fire district is a system. So
Right.
it's not Brentwood, it's not Discovery Bay, it's not Knightson, it's not Oakley. It's everyone has to work together as a system in order to have great fire protection.
Understood. I figured that's what you meant, but
Yep.
I just wanted to, for the 2 or 3 other people watching this, that when you say Oakley gives us money, that you're referring to the fire district. It's not a Oakley versus Brentwood type of thing.
Yep, absolutely. Nope. Us is if I was elected and I am a director.
Got it. That sounds like a plan. Well, my friend, is there anything you'd like to add? Because you have pretty much eaten up all the questions that I'm looking at. So is there anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
I would just like to thank everyone who has supported me in this endeavor. The community engagement that I've received. I've always said I will listen to everyone's opinion. I may or may not agree with you. Most of the time, I probably will agree with you. But if I don't, I will definitely let you know why I don't, and I will give you bullet points and as to why something wouldn't work. Like your question about, volunteers.
Right.
This is why it wouldn't work in this case, not necessarily why volunteer firefighters are bad in general, which they're not. They're a huge asset.
Right. No, and uh, I keep hearing feedback. I apologize. No, but what I was going to say is, no, you are. This conversation is living proof of that. You know, I gave you my point of view. You gave me yours.
Yep.
You know, we can't ask for anything more of those who we vote in to listen and absorb. And if you don't agree, that okay, cool. As long as you explain why, which you have. So
I really wish that, I mean, this has been a problem that has been going on for a very long time, with Prop 13 but really the crux of this was back in 2002 when the county kind of created what we are now. If you look at a staff report, when they were consolidating the fire district, there's a line, there's a paragraph in there that and some people have different interpretations of this line. However, it essentially says that the county will do anything in its power to make the district whole and will bring the level and standard of fire service up to the rest of the county and the Bay Area. So obviously that hasn't happened. And the county takes a huge responsibility in this. So I look forward to being part of the process when I'm elected, and kind of build on what the district is continuing to do in good faith.
couldn't have said it any better myself, sir. Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. I really do appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck. It's going to be a challenge, but you know, between you and I, we both know that already. You know, you really have to have a passion to want to do this gig.
And I definitely have a passion, and it's like you said, it's a long process, and we're, you know, a little bit down the road, and we still have a long way up the hill to go. But I look forward to hopefully helping out and going on this trek with everyone together.
Sounds good. Well, sir, I'm getting ready to hit the stop button on record, but I do thank you for your time, and